Hello once again, people. So if you've been paying attention recently, you'll know that last time around, we have been basically closing the gap. We're getting very, very close to the end of Q2, um, and we've actually gotten to a point whereby we've done most of the single player levels. There's actually only like two remaining, I think. Um, and the majority of levels remaining, I think that's 4 levels, is multiplayer. Yeah, we have a little multiplayer marathon, and then we'll have the last two single player levels at the end. So yeah, that means we have a little multiplayer session to blast through. All right. Usually multiplayer goes by faster anyway, so guess what? That means we're mostly there. So yeah, with that in mind, let's load this thing up. Showdown, it's called, and I think really that's all we really need to know. Oh, hit the wrong button. You know what? I don't think I've actually used the back key like all of this, the entire playthrough. So, like, I talked about it at the very, very beginning, and then I completely forgot it existed for most of these videos. Yeah, I don't like the back button or whatnot. For some reason, I don't know why it is, but I think of like the escape key as basically being like, um, basically redirecting yourself one directory back or something like that. I don't imagine it's in the entire program. Um, to me, that just feels like a key that should be resigned to something a bit more out of the way, and that the escape should just be like going one back. I don't know, the B key is a bit inconvenient of a place anyway. I don't feel like the B key is a very practical key to use for anything on like a controlling part of the GUI. You could have used space, you could have used tab, you could have used anything that would be a bit more on the edges and is a bit bigger of a button. No, you decide to go with the letter B. This random key in the middle of the keyboard. It's right under the space, right above the space or whatnot, but there's a bunch of letters up above the space. And so you have to remember, oh, it's the B key, this key right in the middle of the whole SmackDown keyboard. Instead of, it being one of these very obvious keys. Like I said, what's wrong with space? Space is a pretty big key. You can't miss that one. Tab, tab and back. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Why isn't it tab? Tab would work a lot better. Um, and of course we can't bind it anyway, because that would be stupid. But yeah, pointless shortcut keys and really the places they put them. If I really was bugged about it, I could always create like a macro or whatnot and change the key around. They have like one of those high quality gaming keyboards whereby you could easily like change the macros for like the side buttons. But yeah, it just isn't too much of a hassle to really bother with because half the time we never use it unless we end up hitting the wrong button in the first place. So I guess that's kind of the idea is that you generally are just going to look at and not need to go back because it's really only two menus. So it is a bit less of a function to use generally. So it does make a little bit more sense, but I don't know. I'd still say since we have like escape as quit or whatnot, tab should be like a way to tab back or so. Not a key that's like on the opposite side from all the others. Like if you think like WASD and whatnot, and you think it's like that left side of the keyboard, the problem is that the B key is outside the reach of the other two keys. R is right next to WASD; it's right above it, so it's not too bad to reach. And it's kind of a lesser used function, so that makes a bit more sense. And escape is right in the upper smack dab left corner, easy with your pinky. So with that in mind, why is it so hard to hit the B key? Why did they have to make it somewhere where you have to like change where your position of your fingers is in order to hit it? It just feels very, very unintuitive. Anyway, I've been ranting for 4 minutes about key bindings, so let's actually begin this bloody thing. Showdown! Hey, what did you really expect? This isn't like a very eventful thing. we're playing a multiplayer level. What did you expect? And yeah, it's basically that level we saw recently. I talked recently about like one or two levels that had new geometry that I believe was first seen in single player levels. The entire time it's basically been introduced in levels based on multiplayer stuff. But recently we had like two or so examples whereby stuff was different in single player for once, and they threw some single player levels at us that were different. Well, now we have the multiplayer ports of those levels, of course. So yeah, this is basically I want to say it's Darkness, if I'm correct. And yeah, basically Darkness was one of the ones that was a first timer in single player. It was just basically a smacked out bunch of corridors. And now we have the multiplayer port. So yeah, that pretty much is the reason why we have this little marathon of levels at the end. Because, well, we had some new geometry, which meant we could abuse that new geometry to make more levels. Of course! Okay, so we know the general drill of how this works. Let's just run around, pick up stuff, and get through it. Let's just go around here because this will allow for like a circle to begin area. As you see, I know my way around these areas. Yeah, but I had to make sure that my preset on my headset was on the right audio mode. Let's see here. Rockets? Good for blowing up things, especially if you have a rocket launcher. As you see, it's basically a pain in the butt bunch of corridors with really no set rhyme or reason. It basically explains that. Really, it's a set of interconnected corridors or whatnot that really just merge together in chaotic ways. The best way I think I could describe this level is that it's basically think of like some loops that come around and converge in the middle. Think of like 4 loops or so. I think that's the best way to describe it, but yeah. This ain't really the most interesting of levels to look at. And gameplay-wise, it kind of was boring in single player because enemies were pretty scattered and pretty weak generally too. Why would you put the nail gun in this one small room here? This is like a central room. This should be like a place where you put like a powerful gun and have to like fight to reach it. Whatever. Q2 will do whatever Q2 feels like doing. And that basically brings us around here. Wait a minute, why am I not playing multiplayer? Aha! I have just realized something. I'm on the wrong gameplay mode. That would explain a lot. Alright, let's load this thing up in the proper game mode, even though it really doesn't matter. But now you get to see a red number in the corner. That's the good news. At least with 1.06, we at least get to see that. Which denotes to me if we're in the right game mode or not. So that way I can easily tell if I'm actually, paying attention if we're in the right game mode instead of, like, playing in the wrong game mode and not realizing it. So as you see, I have a tendency to do that. That's kind of why I like to automate things, because I'm going to forget. I have a very, very bad memory. If you haven't noticed. Definitely not one of my stronger traits. Let's see here. There's really nothing to this, just corridors. If you really wanted something interesting, you kind of been barking up the wrong tree from Q2. And even as like a high quality competitive multiplayer level, I wouldn't say this is it so far, but it depends a lot on where the rocket launcher position is. Because the multiplayer of original Quake, what really matters but the rocket launcher? Yeah, Quake multiplayer is pretty unbalanced, sadly. It's very popular, but honestly, it's pretty imbalanced. Has a high skill window, and that's kind of why it kind of works itself around. But you cannot deny that really it comes down to the importance of one gun, specifically the rocket launcher, and that everything else in the game is pretty much useless. At least the multiplayer. Like, the Thunderbolt might be a little useful. But generally speaking, the rocket launcher is going to dominate, like, everything. And so that makes even, like, the best designed multiplayer levels kind of flawed if they don't have, like, multiple rocket launcher positions. A bit of a shame, really, that Quake is kind of unbalanced like that. Some people like that, I guess. Probably because it keeps things simple or whatnot. If you have, like, one gun that works really, really well, which is basically what we have here, one gun that works well, and a bunch of stuff that just is pretty useless. Plus, with the absence of the rocket launcher works well, but nobody wants a level without the rocket launcher. If you notice, that was what DM1 was. And you see how that went over. So lesson is, pretty much the Quake multiplayer scene involves the rocket launcher. If you don't have a rocket launcher in a level, you're pretty much out of luck. And pretty much that's what it comes down to and whatnot. It's a simple gun. It involves just point, shoot, bang. It's about the rapid fire nature of it. And that's really what it comes down to why Quake is multiplayer so popular. Let me get out here, because that's really everything here. But yeah, if really I had to say a reason for Quake's multiplayer popularity, it has a lot to do with, well, it being the first multiplayer game that existed, so that kind of serves a lot of purpose. And it's the fast-paced nature of it. It's just the fact that it's so simplistic, and it's so fast-paced, that it allows people to easily grasp the core rules. You don't need like a bunch of different crazy rules or whatnot to understand it. And without the game adding all these extra rules and all these extra things that can happen, pretty much the game relies upon the player being able to build upon themselves. It basically it changes the skill window. If you have like a lot of rules, what ends up happening is there isn't much room for improvement, because you're limited by whatever these rules basically say. If there's that many rules, you have a lot less limitations on what you can do. And I think that's a big reason why Quake is so popular, because of its simplicity, because of the fact that it doesn't limit you. It ends up becoming a high skill thing or whatnot. Those that really master the rocket launcher, if you will, therefore are basically the best players. Plus, like I said, the other guns can have their places or whatnot. There is times, of course, when they are useful. Say the other person doesn't have a rocket launcher, but if you really look at like Quake multiplayer or whatnot, pretty much everyone will say rocket launcher. Go to the rocket launcher. Is there a rocket launcher? I don't like this level if there's no rocket launcher. Seriously, that's really kind of like the craze of multiplayer. So yeah, you cannot really argue that Quake was the most balanced of games out there, but at the same time, single player actually was a bit more balanced, because at least with like shamblers or whatnot being resistant to explosives, you kind of have to switch up guns. Plus, if you play like I'm playing, you kind of need to conserve a little bit, because otherwise you don't want to run out of ammo for zombies. So yeah, basically the rocket launcher is a useful gun, but isn't the end-all be-all that is, say, in multiplayer. But yeah, multiplayer has like big popularity and whatnot. Like I said, the lack of balance and whatnot might even be a good thing for them, because it means one less rule that really needs to be balanced or whatnot. It's not a rock paper scissors thing. It is a simple one gun based idea, and basically, if two people get the same gun or whatnot, and everyone uses that one gun, It's basically the mastery of that one simple thing. It's one thing to understand, one thing to do. It simplifies it even further than it already was. Um, I guess at the end of the day, that's really like that explains like why maps that have multiple rocket launchers could do even better. Like say DM6. DM6 has two rocket launchers on the map. DM2 has two rocket launchers on the map. Um, I think does DM4 have two rocket launchers? I think DM4 doesn't, but I think it's just the popularity of that map, because of the fact that mattered that it's so close and tight. That actually, is there a rocket launcher by the Red Armor area? I think there might be. There might be a rocket launcher around there. I forget. Um, I'm the person who wrote all this stuff, and I completely forget if there's a rocket launcher over there in one of the base Quake levels. Yeah, you can tell how little I actually play multiplayer or whatnot. The problem is, as I keep trying to rant to rave, nobody really plays like original net Quake. If people are gonna play anything, it's usually Quake World, and nobody even really plays original Quake World because, of course, GameSpy went down. And GameSpy was like the big thing that really caused interconnectivity with Quake World, the original versions. So yeah, it basically means that nobody is really playing any of these old versions of Quake. If you really want to play Quake, you have to like play on like a modern source port or whatnot. Even on modern source ports, from what I hear, there's very few like if you play like Dark Places or something, there's really not many people. You really have to go like Quake World or whatnot and go like Easy Quake or something like that. One of the more modern Quake World source ports, just to play with other people. And of course, it's really just to play those 6 or so maps over and over and over. Um, but it's the fact of it that you have to like use a more modern source port or whatnot, and have to like keep up to date with everything and all that. Um, so it becomes kind of a pain. And that really is one of the reasons why exactly I don't really do it much, because it requires, setting up a modded source port and whatnot, and I'm kind of a traditionalist. I kind of believe in using the old school stuff or whatnot, so that kind of goes against that theory. And I think that's actually a big reason why, in general, in games, even like more games with more stuff, like Unreal or any other game that still has a little bit more of an active community. The problem is that a lot of these games, even though they're old school, whatnot, aren't the same as when they came out, at least in the multiplayer scene. The problem is when you start getting multiplayer, people like to make things modernized or whatnot. Usually, what they end up doing is have a lot of like additional admin packages and all these other things in there that allow like better server stuff. But yeah, that all stuff is modern, and that's what I'm saying. It just becomes a lot less of what the original game was about. You rarely see a server that even functions the way original deathmatch would function in any of these old games. I feel that's probably part of the problem of, like I said, why I don't really get the ability to like play in multiplayer servers a lot, because nobody wants to play vanilla. I don't get what the whole deal is, but yeah, in Quake it makes sense because Quake is a pain in vanilla, a great pain. It requires a lot of setup, and then you will most of the time not get it to work. Quite honestly, but more modern games, like say like even Unreal or something like that, makes a little bit less sense. I guess it's just people get sick of the base game and want newer stuff and want variety. Um, and so yeah, you end up with a lot of crazy game maps or whatnot that really aren't the original whatnot. And that's fine or whatnot, having like different maps or whatnot. I'm not like saying that's all terrible, but I'm just saying that sometimes it's nice to like go back to what the original game was about. And I feel, additional maps are okay if you, but the problem is that with additional maps is, the players need to know the maps. If someone knows the map and nobody else knows the map, then basically that one player dominates everyone else because map location and knowing where the rocket launcher is. But yeah, like I said, that is one problem when it comes down to it with Quake is the fact that it allows for a lot of domination on the field with the rocket launcher. Um, and yeah, basically the rocket launcher is the end all be all gun in Quake multiplayer scenes. It's used to rocket jump around, it's used to really do everything. It's basically the skeleton key of multiplayer Quake. How well you use it is really what kind of defines your skill. But really it definitely is more about the simplicity and ergonomic design, the fast paced nature of it, and all that, more than it is actual balance. Balance is probably one thing you cannot say about Quake in general. Even a single player game, it really, um, once you get like certain guns, use like look at the regular nail gun. You never use the regular nail gun after getting the super nail gun. So there is less purpose for most of the guns sometimes. In the single player game though, you still find the use for the super nail gun, the thunderbolt, the double barreled shotgun, the single shotgun, but um, multiplayer definitely not. And I definitely would say there's still less balance overall. You still could probably like get through most of the game with just a rocket launcher, in comparison to something more like Unreal or something like that, whereby I think ammo is a bit more spread out because each gun has its own separate type of ammo. And I think because there's so many ammo types, what ends up happening is it makes it so you have to switch guns more often and cannot rely on just one gun. Here, because you use so much rocket launcher ammo and there's rocket launcher ammo everywhere, that allows for a lot more domination, whatnot, rocket launcher style. So yeah, just kind of a random ramble about balance and whatnot, and the fact of the matter that even original Quake, the mechanics of the game itself does not lend to a very balanced atmosphere. Um, but at the same time, that's kind of what people want, is a not balanced atmosphere because it's all about the speed, baby. It's all about that speed. And even rushing to get the rocket launcher might even be considered part of the skill. How fast can you do it? Can you control the area well? All that. It really adds a lot of facets to it. As you see, generally, the maps that really are popular tend to have two rocket launchers. So yeah, if your map has one rocket launcher, you're probably not gonna get popular. If your map has no rocket launchers, nobody's gonna care about your level at all. Basically, the lesson is you gotta have a bunch of rocket launchers. There should just be a map out there with like 500 rocket launchers or so sitting in the middle of a small room and call that level. That'd probably actually be better for multiplayer than most other levels. Yeah, that's pretty sad, but that really is what it comes down to in balance. Rocket launcher really beats all. Anyway, I've been rambling for long enough. It's been going on for almost another half an hour. My God, I gotta stop doing this. Anyway, thank you very much all for watching. It has been the adventure, and I shall see you all next time.